A young billionaire saves two poor twin girls from being run over in front of the school. They wake up in the hospital and ask, "Why did you save us?" His answer is unbelievable. The receptionist looked Rachel up and down. Her wrinkled dress, old purse, worn-out shoes. Everything about her screamed that she didn't belong there. "Do you have an appointment with Mr. Cole?" Rachel squeezed the strap of her purse. Her hands were trembling. "No, but it's urgent. Please, he's in a meeting. I can take a message if you'd like. Tell him it's Rachel Martinez. He'll see me." The receptionist hesitated. Something in Rachel's tone made her pick up the phone. "Mr. Cole? There's someone named Rachel Martinez here. She says it's urgent." "Yes, sir." She hung up, surprised. "You can go up, 20th floor, room 2012. In the elevator, Rachel closed her eyes. 6 years. 6 years since the last time she'd seen Nathan Cole. The 22-year-old guy she'd met in college had become one of the most respected businessmen in the city. She'd seen his name in the papers, in business magazines. Always smiling, always winning, while she was here. The doors opened. The hallway was wide and silent, expensive paintings on the walls, plush carpet underfoot. Rachel walked slowly until she reached room 2012. She knocked on the door. "Come in," his voice, deeper, more confident, but it was still Nathan. Rachel pushed the door open and walked in. Nathan was standing, his back to her, looking out the window, impeccable suit, perfect posture. When he turned around, Rachel felt her breath catch. He hadn't changed that much. The same face, the same brown eyes. Only now there was something different about him. Maturity, success, everything she didn't have. "Rachel." He said her name as though it were a strange word. "Hi, Nathan." Silence. They looked at each other for a few seconds that felt like an eternity. "Sit down, please." Nathan motioned toward the chair in front of the desk. Rachel sat, placing her purse in her lap. "You look different." 8 years does that to a person. Nathan sat as well, folding his hands on the desk. "What do you want, Rachel?" Straight to the point. That was new too. The Nathan she'd known was more gentle, more patient. Rachel took a deep breath. She opened her purse with trembling hands and took out a photo. "I need to show you something." She placed the photo on the desk and pushed it toward him. Nathan glanced down. He frowned, then picked up the picture. 2 girls, identical. Curly brown hair, big, expressive eyes. One of them was smiling at the camera. The other looked more serious. They were in a park, wearing simple but clean dresses. "Who are they?" Rachel's heart pounded. "Emily and Sophie." "Okay. And I need to know this because—" Nathan looked up at her, impatience in his eyes. Rachel swallowed hard. "They're your daughters." The world stopped. Nathan went completely still. The photo still in his hand, his eyes fixed on it as though Rachel's words hadn't fully reached him. "What?" "They're your daughters, Nathan." The photo trembled in his hand. Nathan slowly placed it back on the desk. "How? You never told me." "Because you left me before I found out. It was months later when I learned I was pregnant." Nathan jumped to his feet so abruptly his chair creaked. This can't be true." "It's true." "Why didn't you come looking for me? Why didn't you tell me?" Rachel felt tears threatening to fall. She blinked quickly to hold them back. "Because you left, Nathan. You said you needed to follow your path, that you couldn't, that I wasn't part of your plans. But these are children, Rachel. They're children." "I know. You think it was easy for me." Her voice came out louder than she intended. Nathan paused in his pacing. "After you left, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. By the time I discovered I was pregnant, it was too late. You had already moved to another city, started your company. I was scared to call, to show up in your new life and tell me I had kids. I was afraid." Rachel stood too, tears finally streaming down her cheeks. "Afraid of what? That you wouldn't believe me? That you'd think I was lying to get you back?" That you wouldn't want them. Nathan looked at the photo again. He picked it up, studying every detail. How old are they? 5. 5 years. Rachel, 5 years of their lives I've missed. I know. What are they like? What do they like to do? Do they ask about me? Rachel wiped her face with the back of her hand. Emily is quieter, more observant. She loves drawing and reading. Sophie is pure energy. She talks all the time, asks 1,000 questions. And yes, they ask about you. They've always asked. Nathan sank into his chair heavily. What did you tell them? The truth. That their father had to leave before they were born. And why are you telling me this now after 5 years? Rachel sat down again, staring at her own hands. Because I've been unemployed for 4 months. The bills are overdue. They deserve more than I can give. Nathan was silent. I only came out of desperation, Nathan. If I had another option, you wouldn't have come. No. He sighed deeply. He looked at the photo again. They're still so little. Everyone says they're your spitting image. Nathan almost smiled. Almost. Where do you live? In my aunt's apartment. She passed away last year and left it to me. It's small, but it's ours. And school. They go to the local public school. They're good students. Nathan nodded slowly, still gazing at the photo. I need some time to think. Rachel stood. Of course. I'm sorry for showing up like this. I know it was a shock. It was. My phone number is the same. If you want to talk. Nathan looked up. Rachel. Yes. Do they know you came here? No, they don't know anything. He nodded. I'll think about what to do. Rachel walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned back. Nathan? Yes. They're amazing. You missed a lot, but there's still time to get to know them. And she left, leaving Nathan alone with the photo of the daughters he never knew he had. Nathan couldn't work for the rest of the day. The photo of the girls stayed on his desk, and he picked it up every 5 minutes. Emily and Sophie, his daughters, 5 years of life he had completely missed. When the office emptied out, he was still there, alone with his thoughts and a truth that changed everything. He picked up the phone and dialed his personal assistant. Mark, I need you to do a discreet inquiry. Rachel Martinez lives in this city. I want to know where she lives, where she works, or worked, and where the girls go to school. Sir. Just do it, Mark, and I want everything by tomorrow morning. Nathan hung up and looked at the photo again. The girls had his eyes, his face shape. How hadn't he noticed right away? Because he was in shock. Because 6 years is a long time. Because he never imagined he could have children. He tucked the photo into his wallet and went home. The next morning, Mark knocked on the door carrying a folder. Here's the information you requested, sir. Nathan opened the folder. Address, the girls' school, Rachel's financial situation, all of it there in black and white. Rachel hadn't lied about being unemployed. There were overdue bills, notices about utility cuts. The apartment was small, in a modest neighborhood. The girls went to the local public school, Hillbrook Elementary. Nathan closed the folder and looked out the window. Mark, cancel my morning appointments. Sir. And prepare a donation for Hillbrook Elementary, something substantial. I want to deliver it personally. Mark hesitated. May I ask why? Nathan turned around. Personal interest. Hillbrook Elementary was in a neighborhood Nathan had never visited. The streets were full of potholes. Some houses needed a fresh coat of paint, and the school showed signs of limited resources, peeling walls, an old playground, but there were children's drawings on the walls and the typical buzz of a lively school. Nathan parked in front of the gate and took a deep breath. His daughters were inside. The principal, Mrs. Peterson, greeted him with surprise and gratitude when she heard about the donation. Mr. Kohler, what a surprise. The school really needs help. Our budget is very tight. It's my pleasure to help. I'd like to learn more about your day-to-day operations. Of course. How about a tour? Nathan nodded, his heart beat faster with each step. They walked through classrooms with old desks, a small library with few books, a simple cafeteria. Nathan noticed the lack of resources everywhere, but also the teachers' efforts to do their best with what little they had. "This is our kindergarten room," Mrs. Peterson said, stopping outside a door with a window. "The 5-year-olds." Nathan looked through the glass and his world stopped. There they were, Emily and Sophie, seated side by side at a small, worn table. Their clothes were clean but simple and a bit worn. Emily was carefully drawing with a broken colored pencil. Sophie was swinging her legs under the chair, talking animatedly to the girl next to her. "They're identical twins," the principal commented, following Nathan's gaze. "Emily and Sophie Martinez, adorable girls, but very different from each other." "How so?" "Emily's more reserved, introspective. She loves to draw and read. Sophie is, well, a whirlwind. She never stops talking, makes friends with everyone, and always has 1,000 questions." Nathan couldn't take his eyes off the girls. They were real. Right there, just a few feet away from him, living their lives without knowing their father stood on the other side of the glass. "Their mother does what she can," Mrs. Peterson continued quietly. "Rachel lost her job a few months ago. Sometimes the girls come without lunch, but they never complain. They're resilient kids." Nathan swallowed hard. "Could I meet the children?" "Sure, they love visitors." The principal opened the classroom door. "Excuse me, Miss Sarah. We have a special visitor today." The teacher smiled, and the children turned to look at Nathan with curiosity. "This is Mr. Cole. He made a very generous donation to our school." Nathan walked into the room, his legs weak. 20 pairs of curious little eyes stared at him, but he only saw 2 specific pairs. Emily stopped drawing and watched him carefully. Sophie beamed a wide smile. "Hi," Sophie said, waving. "You're really tall." A few children giggled. Nathan smiled for the first time in 24 hours. "Hi to you too." "What do you do?" Sophie asked bluntly. "Sophie," the teacher gently reprimanded. "It's okay," Nathan said, crouching down to their level. "I work at a company." "What kind of company?" Sophie pressed on. Emily remained silent, but Nathan noticed she was listening to every word. "We help other businesses grow." "Is that cool?" "Sometimes," Sophie laughed. Emily finally spoke, in a quiet voice. "Your suit is nice." Nathan looked at her, heart tightening. "Thank you. Your drawing is nice too." Emily glanced at her paper and blushed. "It's just a butterfly." "Can I see?" Emily hesitated, then slid the paper toward him. It really was a butterfly, drawn with surprising care for a 5-year-old. "It's perfect," Nathan said, meaning it. "I can draw too," Sophie interjected, grabbing her own paper. Her drawing was more childlike, full of bright colors and abstract shapes. "This is our home, and me and Emily and Mom." Nathan studied the picture, 3 stick figures in front of a small house, all smiling. "Your family looks happy." "We are," Sophie said, "except sometimes Mom gets sad." "Sophie," Emily muttered, elbowing her sister. "It's true." She looks at the bills and sighs. Nathan felt a pang in his chest. He glanced at Emily, who had lowered her eyes. "Children, shall we get back to our activities?" the teacher suggested. Nathan stood, his legs still shaking. "It was a pleasure meeting you." "Bye," Sophie called out, waving enthusiastically. Emily gave a small, shy wave. Nathan left the classroom with the principal, but his mind stayed behind with his daughters, Emily and Sophie. The tour continued, but Nathan hardly paid attention. His head was full of the girls' voices, their drawings, the way Emily observed him with those attentive eyes. "So what did you think?" Mrs. Peterson asked as they returned to her office. "It's an excellent school. The children seem happy. We do our best. The donation you mentioned will be a big help." Nathan pulled out his checkbook. "What else do you need?" Well, we always need basic school supplies, books for the library, lunch for children who don't have any, and the roof is leaking. Nathan wrote a figure that made the principal's eyes widen. Mr. Cole, this is very generous. It's for a good cause. He signed the check and stood up. Thank you for the tour. Please come back anytime. The children loved meeting you. Nathan left the school feeling a mix of emotions. Joy at finally seeing his daughters, pain for the lost years, guilt for not being there, and a new guilt. His daughters studied in a school that barely had basic resources, while he drove expensive cars and lived in a penthouse. He was heading to his car when he heard familiar voices. Emily, come on, I'm coming. Nathan turned around. The girls were leaving the school hand in hand. Emily carried a small, dented lunchbox. Sophie swung a backpack that had seen better days. Even so, they seemed happy, chatting as they walked. They were coming right toward him, but they hadn't noticed him yet. Nathan stood still, watching. It was like watching a movie of his own life he never knew existed. And then Miss Sarah said my drawing was beautiful, but I think yours was better, Sophie was saying. Mine was crooked, Emily replied. No, it wasn't. That man liked it too. The man in the suit. Uh-huh, he was nice and tall. Nathan smiled. They were talking about him. The girls reached the curb and stopped. Emily looked both ways carefully, as Rachel must have taught them. Sophie tapped her foot impatiently. Can I cross now? Wait, let me check for cars. Nathan stood only a few yards away, hearing every word, seeing every expression. Emily, always cautious. Sophie, always eager. Okay, now, Emily said. They held hands and started across the street. That's when Nathan saw it. A car was coming down the road, going way too fast. The driver was looking at his phone, not at the road. The girls were right in the middle of the street. The car wouldn't stop in time. Nathan didn't think, he didn't hesitate, he ran. Watch out! He reached them just as the driver finally looked up and slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. Nathan grabbed both girls and pulled them to him, throwing himself toward the curb. The three of them tumbled across the asphalt as the car screeched by, stopping a few yards ahead. For a few seconds, there was silence. Then Sophie started crying. Nathan got up quickly, ignoring the pain in his knee. Emily was sitting on the ground, eyes wide, a small red mark on her arm. Sophie was crying, but she seemed more scared than hurt. Are you okay? Nathan asked, crouching beside them. Emily nodded, still in shock. Sophie kept crying. My knee hurts, Sophie sobbed. Nathan looked at it. It was just a scrape, but it was bleeding a little. The driver got out of the car, pale as a sheet. I'm sorry, I didn't see. They came out of nowhere. Call an ambulance, Nathan said, not taking his eyes off the girls. They don't need an ambulance, Emily whispered. We're okay. Yes, you do. You had a big scare. Nathan helped them stand. Emily had a scrape on her arm, Sophie on her knee. Nothing serious, but he wasn't taking any chances. How did you know our names? Emily asked suddenly. Nathan realized he had shouted their names. He thought fast. I was at your school today, I remember you two. Oh, Emily said. You're the man in the suit. That's me. The ambulance arrived a few minutes later, along with a police car. The paramedics checked the girls and confirmed they only had minor scrapes, but recommended going to the hospital as a precaution. What about their parents? One of the paramedics asked. Nathan hesitated. I'll call their mother. He had Rachel's number in his wallet from Mark's report. He dialed with shaking hands. Hello? Rachel, it's Nathan. Nathan, how do you have my number? Doesn't matter now. Emily and Sophie had an accident. They're okay, just scrapes, but they're going to the hospital. Silence on the other end. Which hospital? St. Mary's. Rachel, I promise they're fine. I'm on my way. The line went dead. At the hospital, Nathan waited in the reception area while the doctors examined the girls. He had called Mark, cancelled all his meetings for the day. Nothing else mattered now. Sophie fell asleep during the ride. Exhausted from the scare, Emily stayed awake, watching Nathan with curiosity. "Why did you save us?" she asked when they were alone in the ambulance. Nathan looked at her, those eyes so much like his, waiting for an honest answer. "Because that's what people do. We protect those who need protecting." Emily nodded, as though that made sense to her. "Thank you." "You're welcome. You hurt your knee." Nathan looked down. There was blood on his torn pant leg. "It's nothing." "Does it hurt?" "A little." Emily was silent for a moment. "My mom says that when someone gets hurt saving us, we never forget." Nathan felt his eyes sting. "Your mom is a wise woman." "She is." At the hospital, the girls were taken for tests. Nathan stayed in the waiting room, pacing back and forth. When Rachel arrived in a panic, Nathan stood up. "Where are they?" "They're being examined." "Rachel, they're fine. Just some scrapes." Rachel stared at him, still processing the situation. "What were you doing there?" Nathan hesitated. "I went to their school. I made a donation." "A donation?" "I wanted to see them." Rachel closed her eyes. "Nathan, they're okay, Rachel, I promise." A doctor approached. "Family of Emily and Sophie Martinez." "I'm their mother," Rachel said. "The girls are doing great, just superficial scrapes. We'll keep them for a few hours of observation, just to be safe, but they can go home later today." Rachel exhaled with relief. "Can I see them?" "Of course. They're awake and asking for you." The doctor walked off. Rachel looked at Nathan. "Thank you for saving them. No need to thank me." "I do. If you hadn't been there." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Can I see them too?" Nathan asked. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "I think they'd like to thank you themselves." They walked down the hospital corridor together. Nathan was about to truly meet his daughters at last. Nathan and Rachel walked in silence through the white hospital corridor. The smell of disinfectant filled the air, blending with the tension between them. They stopped in front of room 305, where the girls were. Rachel took a deep breath before opening the door. The twins were on side-by-side beds, small bandages on Emily's arm and Sophie's knee. Both looked calmer now, their curious eyes following the adults as they entered. "Mom!" Sophie exclaimed, smiling wide. Emily just watched, her observing gaze going from her mom to Nathan and back. Rachel rushed over and hugged them carefully. "Are you okay? I was so worried." "We're fine, huh, Mom? Just scrapes," Emily said, ever the sensible one. "The doctor said we can go home later today," Sophie added. Rachel kissed both of their foreheads, and only then did they turn all their attention to Nathan, who stood near the door. "It's the man in the suit," Sophie pointed, excited. "He saved us, Mom." Rachel glanced at Nathan, unsure what to say next. "Girls, this is Nathan." The twins looked at him with renewed curiosity. "Thank you for saving us," Emily said, her voice soft but firm. Nathan approached, heart pounding. "You're welcome. How are you feeling?" "My knee still hurts a little," Sophie said, pouting. "But the doctor said I'm super brave." "And you are," Nathan said, smiling at her. An awkward silence filled the room. The girls studied Nathan, then looked at their mom, sensing something else was going on. Emily broke the silence with the question that had been on her mind since the ambulance ride. "Why did you do that?" Nathan looked at Rachel, who bit her lip nervously. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. "Why did you jump in front of the car to save us?" Emily insisted. "You don't even know us." Nathan stepped closer, sitting on the edge of Emily's bed. "Actually, I do know you. Or I should." The girls frowned, confused. Rachel sat on Sophie's bed, holding her daughter's hand. Nathan took a deep breath. "I saved you because I'm your father." The room went completely still. The twins' eyes went wide, darting between Nathan and Rachel, waiting for some sign that this was a joke. Rachel nodded slowly. "It's true, girls. This is your dad." Sophie reacted first, her mouth forming a perfect "oh." "Our dad?" Our real dad? Yes, Rachel replied, her voice trembling slightly. Emily said nothing, her eyes studying Nathan as though trying to find parts of herself in him. But you went away, Emily finally said, her voice small. Nathan felt as if he'd been punched in the gut. I didn't know about you, he answered honestly. I didn't know I had two amazing daughters. How could you not know? Sophie asked, tilting her head. Rachel interjected, That was my fault, girls. I never told him. The twins processed this information in their own way. Emily, thoughtful and cautious. Sophie, bursting with questions. So you didn't leave us on purpose? Sophie asked. Never, Nathan said firmly. If I had known about you, I would have been here every day. So now what? Emily finally spoke, her voice more serious than any 5-year-old's should be. Will you stay? The question hung in the air, heavy with hope and fear. Nathan looked at the girls, then at Rachel, and knew exactly how to answer. I will if you and your mom let me. I want to know you. I want to be here now. Sophie beamed, instantly accepting his answer. Emily stayed serious, but something in her eyes softened. Are you going to live in our house? Sophie asked, already imagining the possibilities. Rachel blushed. Sophie, that's not how it works. Why not? Don't dads live with moms? Nathan and Rachel exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, Nathan explained. But what's important is that I'll be in your lives, no matter where I live. Sophie nodded, satisfied for now. Emily still watched him warily. You have a lot of money, right? Sophie asked, pointing to his suit, now torn and stained from the accident. Sophie, Rachel scolded, but it's true, Mom. You said he has a big company. Nathan smiled at the child's honesty. I do have a company. Yes, Sophie brightened. Then you can help Mom. She's out of a job. And every day we get bills in the mail that make her cry. Sophie, Rachel exclaimed, mortified. But it's true. We hear you crying at night, right, Emily? Emily nodded silently, her eyes never leaving Nathan's. Rachel looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Calm down, girls, she said, trying to change the subject. You need to rest. We can talk about all this later. But Nathan had already made up his mind. I'll help, yes, he said firmly. I'll help you with anything you need. Rachel opened her mouth to protest, then shut it again. She knew she needed help. For them. For the girls. Sophie grinned, satisfied. So you're really gonna be our dad? For real? Nathan felt a lump in his throat. I'm already your dad. I just didn't know it until now. Emily finally asked, Can we call you Dad? The simple, direct question made Nathan's eyes sting. You can call me whatever you want. Dad, Nathan. Whatever feels right. I want to call you Dad, Sophie decided immediately. I always wanted a dad. All eyes turned to Emily, who still seemed to be evaluating Nathan. I'll think about it, she finally said, and Nathan smiled, respecting the space she needed. A nurse entered the room, interrupting the moment. How are our little patients? Time to check vitals. While the nurse examined the girls, Nathan approached Rachel. We need to talk, he whispered. About everything. Rachel nodded, her gaze still on her daughters. I know. I'm not mad at you for not telling me before. I'm just sad about the lost years, but I want to make up for it. I want to know them. Rachel finally looked him in the eyes. They're the best of me, Nathan, the best of both of us. He nodded, understanding the weight of her words. We'll make it work for them. The nurse finished her checks and smiled. They're doing great. The doctor will be by soon to discharge them. Once she left, Sophie yawned, tired from the ordeal. I'm sleepy. Get some rest, Rachel said, adjusting her blanket. Within minutes, Sophie was asleep. Emily held out a little longer, still watching Nathan, until her eyes started to close too. Nathan and Rachel stood there, gazing at their sleeping daughters. Knowing nothing would ever be the same, everything had changed. Within hours, Nathan had gone from a successful businessman to the father of 2 5-year-olds. And scary as it was, he realized it was the best thing that had ever happened to him. 3 days had passed since the accident. Nathan parked his car in front of the modest 3-story building where Rachel lived with the girls. The neighborhood was quiet, evidently middle class at best. Some buildings needed new paint. There were broken toys in the small playground on the corner. Nathan carried 2 large grocery bags and a folder of documents. His heart pounded as he walked up to the gate. Since the hospital, he had been texting, calling, figuring out how he could help. But this was his first time visiting his daughter's home. He pressed the buzzer for apartment 203. "Who is it?" Rachel's voice asked through the intercom. "It's me, Nathan." A brief silence. Then the sound of the door being unlocked. Nathan climbed the worn stairs, noticing the chipped paint on the walls. On the second floor, the door to 203 was already open. Rachel waited, wearing simple jeans and a t-shirt that had seen better days. Even so, she looked pretty, tired, but pretty. "Hi," she said. "Come in." The moment Nathan stepped inside, he heard an excited squeal. "Dad!" Sophie came running and threw herself against his legs, hugging them. Nathan felt his heart jump at how natural it sounded for her to call him Dad. "Hi, Sophie," he said, balancing the bags while patting her head. Emily appeared just behind her, more reserved. She stood a few feet away, observing him. "Hi, Emily." Nathan smiled at her. "Hi," she replied quietly, then pointed to the bags. "What did you bring?" "Some things for dinner and dessert." Sophie's eyes lit up. "Dessert? We almost never have dessert." Rachel took one of the bags from Nathan's hand. "Thanks, but you didn't have to." "I wanted to." She nodded, taking the bag to the small kitchen. Nathan followed, Sophie still clinging to his leg, with Emily trailing behind. The apartment was tiny, but tidy and clean. The living room and kitchen almost formed a single space. The furniture was old, most of it second-hand, but each piece had its place. There were the girls' drawings on the fridge, potted plants on the windowsills, a few photos in simple frames. Little space, few resources, but a lot of love in every detail. Nathan set the other bag on the kitchen table and began to unload items. Fresh fruit, vegetables, meat, bread, cookies, ice cream. "Nathan, this is too much," Rachel said, eyeing the amount of food. "It's just the basics." Sophie stood on her tiptoes, trying to peek inside the bags. "Is there chocolate?" Nathan smiled and pulled out a chocolate bar. "There is, but only after dinner, okay?" Sophie nodded enthusiastically. "Can I show you our room?" she asked, tugging on his hand. "Sure." Nathan looked at Rachel, who nodded, giving permission. Come on," Sophie led him down the short hallway. "We share the room. Mom sleeps in the living room." Nathan frowned, glancing back. Rachel avoided his gaze as she put groceries away. The girls' room was tiny. There was barely room for 2 small beds, one against each wall, and an old dresser between them. More drawings were taped to the walls, and a plastic box held their few toys. "This is my bed," Sophie said, pointing to the one with a faded but colorful blanket. "And that's Emily's." Emily stood in the doorway, watching everything with her thoughtful eyes. "It's small," she said simply. Nathan nodded, looking around. "But it's cozy." Sophie jumped onto her bed. "Mom made these quilts. I picked the colors myself." Nathan noted how, despite their simplicity, the beds were neatly made. Their clothes were carefully folded in the dresser, their few toys stored, their worn children's books lined up. Everything was clean and orderly, but undeniably modest. "Do you want to see my new drawing?" Sophie asked, already grabbing a piece of paper from the dresser. "Sure." While Sophie showed him her art, a colorful mix of people and flowers, Nathan took in every detail of the small room. Each corner was used to its fullest. but it was clearly far too cramped for two growing children. "That's you, that's Mom, that's me, that's Emily," Sophie explained, pointing at the figures. Nathan knelt to see the drawing better. "You draw very well, Sophie." "Emily draws better." Nathan looked at Emily, who sat on her bed, watching. "Do you like to draw?" She nodded. "Can I see one of your drawings?" Emily hesitated, then pulled a notebook from under her pillow. She opened it to a page and showed Nathan. It was a drawing of a park, with trees, benches, and 3 figures, 2 small ones holding hands with a bigger one. "Is that you, Sophie, and your mum?" Emily nodded. "At the park near our school. We go there on Sundays." "It's really good, Emily. You have talent." "Mum says I draw like you," she said, watching his reaction. Nathan blinked, surprised. "Your mum said that?" Emily nodded. "She said you used to draw in college." Nathan smiled at the memory. "That's true. I like to draw. I did some design work for a few clubs." "Do you still draw?" "Not as much as I should." Nathan flipped through a few more pages, admiring his daughter's artistry. Emily had a remarkable attention to detail for someone her age. "Do you have colored pencils?" he asked. Emily and Sophie exchanged glances. "We had some, but they're all used up," Sophie said. "And Mom said we have to wait until next month to buy more." Nathan felt another pang in his chest. "What else do you need to draw?" Emily shrugged. "Paper, markers, a new pencil sharpener, and modeling clay," Sophie added. "Ours at school is too hard," Nathan nodded, making a mental note. "I'll bring those things next time, okay?" Sophie's eyes sparkled. "Promise?" "I promise." Rachel appeared at the door. "Girls, have you shown Nathan everything? Dinner will be ready soon." "He liked our drawings, Mom," Sophie exclaimed, jumping off the bed. "And he's going to bring new colored pencils." Rachel looked at Nathan, her expression complicated. "That's not necessary." "I want to." The 4 returned to the kitchen. Rachel continued preparing dinner while Nathan sat at the small table with the girls. Sophie chattered non-stop about school, her friends, their games. Emily remained quieter, but alert, occasionally correcting Sophie when she exaggerated a story. "And then my teacher said my work was the best in the class," Sophie declared. "She said it was one of the best," Emily corrected. "Not the best." "Same thing." "No, it's not." Nathan smiled at their interaction. It was fascinating how 2 identical sisters could be so different. Sophie, outgoing and energetic. Emily, reserved and precise. As the girls chatted, Nathan glanced around, taking in every detail of the apartment. On the living room table, he spotted some bills. When Rachel went to the bathroom, he took a quick look. Overdue electricity, overdue rent, final notices. His stomach sank. While he lived in a luxurious penthouse, Rachel and the girls, his girls, were struggling with the basics. When Rachel returned, he picked up the folder he had brought. "We need to talk after they go to bed," he said quietly. She nodded, tense. Dinner was lively. The girls were delighted by Nathan's presence, especially Sophie, who peppered him with questions. "Is your house big?" "It's an apartment. Yes, it's big. Does it have a pool?" "The building does." "Can we visit?" Rachel intervened. "Sophie, don't be nosy." "It's fine," Nathan said. "And yes, you can visit whenever you want." "Is there a playground?" Sophie pressed. Nathan chuckled. "No, there's no playground, but there's a nice view of the city." Emily Font, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "Do you live alone?" Nathan nodded. "Yes, I do." "No wife?" Emily continued. "No other kids?" Nathan shook his head. "No, no wife, no other kids, just you two." Sophie smiled, satisfied. "I knew it." Emily seemed to process that. "Why didn't you ever tell us about him, Mom?" she asked suddenly, looking at Rachel. Silence fell over the table. Rachel set her fork down slowly. "Because it hurt too much to remember," she answered honestly. Nathan felt his chest tighten. Rachel continued, Sometimes it's when you love someone very much and then that person leaves, it hurts to talk about them, even if you want to. Do you still love him? Sophie asked innocently. Rachel blushed. Sophie, finish your dinner. But Ice cream, Nathan cut in, trying to save Rachel from embarrassment. I brought chocolate and strawberry. It worked. Sophie forgot the question and launched into a debate about which flavor she liked best. Emily watched carefully, but didn't press further. After dinner and dessert, the girls started yawning. It had been a long day. Bath and bed, girls, Rachel announced. But Dad just got here, Sophie protested.